Let's line up this video. We all go through many seasons. What I mean by that is, when you go through life, you experience setbacks. Setbacks can be a form of personal injury or a death in the family. Sometimes those setbacks have to happen before we have our own breakthroughs. However, when we have those setbacks, how do we deal with it? How do we deal with that cold season? Matt Campbell, I see how you attack that cold season. You wrote with your heart, with the help of friends and family. Man, I can't thank you enough for supporting me, my wife, and the compliments you give us on this podcast. However, more importantly, I feel like we have a friendship that's going to last for a very long time. And by the way, that cutting board over there, I'm not going to use it as firewood. That's going to stay with us forever. It's going to move with us every house we move into. Thank you so much for your time, brother, man. I appreciate you, and I love you, and I look forward to this amazing friendship. Records a lot longer now.
So am I good sitting like this, or should I cross my leg? Or?
No, man, you're good, dude. You're
okay.
Good. I just got to remember to hit record on the audio. That's
yeah, you got to do that. That's the most important.
One time I was actually recording with Margie doing a pre-check, and I was like, oh yeah, the GoPro's working. This is awesome. And I go and replay. I was like, where's the audio? It sounded distant. And I looked back, I was like, man, I forgot it.
He didn't start it.
Yeah, I didn't hit the play button or the record button. So anyways, man. Yeah, we can go as long as you want. Battery life, SD card life, man, we can go for days, actually, I think.
However long you want it to be. Okay. We'll make it. So
all right.
I'm just honored to be here.
All right, man. Today's special guest is Pastor Matt Campbell. Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to talk with you. And let me just say, for yourself and for Margie, congratulations.
Thank
Way
you.
to go. I mean, a couple years ago, who would have thought that here I would be in Moore talking to my friend Wong about my life, about my story, and how many people have sat in this chair and have been able to tell their story in their own words. Like, way to go. Congratulations, man.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. I don't know if you remember, but on Instagram, I reached out to you about a year ago almost. Margie and I got married February 25th of 17. No, wait. February 25th of 2018. And the morning after, we flew to Denver and brought her grandma a piece of cake, wedding cake. And so we had wedding cake and we took her to breakfast. Then we went up to Manitou Springs. And those same steps that you walked on or ran on, Margie and I walked on as well. And I thought it was fascinating.
So you did the Manitou incline?
Yeah. And I thought that you were from Oklahoma. You're originally from Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had an OU shirt on. So I was like, man, that's cool. And I started reading about your bio and the book that you read about your mom, and I was intrigued. And before we get into this podcast, I know that you're a pastor, and I'd be honored if you give us a little prayer before we actually take a dive into this podcast, man. I appreciate it.
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
God, thank you for stories. Thank you for giving us stories, the good and the bad, and as learning experiences that will help others, to teach them, to comfort them, and to guide them. And God, I'm thankful that friendships can cross state lines, can cross country lines, can cross colors and races. And I'm grateful for my friend Wong. I'm grateful for his willingness and his wife's willingness to help others capture their story. So God, would you bless them, and would your favor reign on them? Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so reached out to you on Instagram. Thought you were from, I really thought you lived in Norman, actually. And turns out you live in Amarillo, Texas. So you woke up at 6 o'clock this morning and trucked it all the way to Moore, Oklahoma to be in person. And I admire that.
Well, there's not much to admire. It is my day off.
Yeah.
And typically I would be still probably asleep or laying down. But yeah, I'm glad to be here. I'm just honored you invited me to come and pet your dogs and and chat with you.
Absolutely, man. You're married. You're a father of two. You're a preacher, and and we're going to take a deep dive into your Hall of Fame because you were a Hall of Famer in baseball. You got inducted 2016?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what's the process of getting inducted into the Hall of Fame of your university, college?
Well, the process for me was just getting a phone call from the athletic director, who happens to be a very, very dear friend of mine. His name is Scott Womble, who in his own right is a wonderful author and thinker and teacher. Loves the Lord, but tremendous coach. He coached me in basketball my last year that I played. I played basketball in college as well.
Right.
And so the process was basically however far removed from playing, they were desperate enough to need more names. So they called me. But what an honor it was, because I drove from Amarillo to Tulsa, spent the night with my dad.
Yeah.
And then my dad and I drove all the way to St. Louis, and it's actually his alma mater too, St. Louis Christian College.
Man.
And all the memories and network connections and just things that we had in common. I wouldn't have gone to school there had it not been for my dad. And that special, sweet moment of being able to address everybody who had come and then seeing my dad. And it was an honor that I dedicated to him and to my mom.
Yeah.
And having moved away from the St. Louis area after living there for about 15 years, to come back and see friends, people that I had fought for through prayer, and had loved them, and they had loved me, is such a special treat.
Yeah.
Such a special treat. So.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. What position did you play in baseball?
I was a middle infielder.
Okay.
I would probably say I was best at second base.
Okay.
But the need, I probably played shortstop as much as I played second base, at least in college. I pitched, and there are no records, but I some people stretched it out to like 20 people, 20 strikeouts. Some people said it was 13. But in a 7-inning game, my claim to fame was I struck out 17 guys in one game. And so it was against our rival, and we won. And that was a special memory. I wish my mom and dad could have been there for that one.
Yeah.
But they weren't able to.
Yeah. Man, so right-handed, left-handed?
I'm a righty.
Man.
Yep.
What's your average, back in the day, was miles per hour on your fastball?
Oh, I wasn't a real hard thrower. Probably for our environment I was, but I think the hardest I was ever clocked was 87 miles an hour, something like that. So, guys who are, who can really throw hard, if you're going to be a pitcher at a higher level, you really need to start getting into the 90s to do much. But I had a real quick release. I was a far better infielder than I was a pitcher. It was more out of necessity. I love turning double plays.
Yeah.
That was my favorite thing, was to throw double plays.
Yeah.
And, get your hands real quick. And my favorite player growing up was Ozzie Smith.
Okay.
And if I could have just done a backflip onto the field like Ozzie Smith, shortstop for the Cardinals, greatest shortstop that ever played.
Yeah.
If I could have done a backflip. So whenever I graduated from baseball into softball, that's what happens when you reach a certain age, I did a cartwheel. Or no, not a cartwheel. I did a round off, excuse me.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive. So you're a Cardinals fan then?
Yeah.
Okay.
My
Big
kids
time.
don't have a choice.
No choice, huh?
No choice.
Speaking of kids, how is your wife and how are your girls doing?
My wife's name is Nicole.
Yeah.
She's doing wonderful. And we've been married for 14 years, going on 15.
Wow.
And happily married.
Yeah.
I love her with all my heart. And we have 2 girls, Lily and Evie. They're 10 and 7.
Yeah.
And they're doing wonderful.
Very good, man.
They really are.
Yeah. How are you doing though?
Great.
Yeah.
I'm active. I try to stay fit, try to stay healthy, engage my mind, engage my heart.
Yeah.
And don't take life too seriously. Try to stay down to earth, approachable, and just a normal guy.
Yeah. Engaging your heart, engaging your mind leads me to a question. What are your morning habits?
Oh man, I'm kind of a wreck in the morning.
Yeah?
If I could change anything about myself, other than maybe I'd be 6'5", you know, if I could change anything, the mornings would come more naturally to me.
Okay.
I'm not a real great morning guy, but our family, we all get up at the same time.
Okay.
Get our day started. Nicole takes care of the girls. She makes sure they have clothes and they're getting, braiding their hair, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I handle breakfast. Then I take the girls to school and we come back and we celebrate. And not really, but
Yeah.
then we get ready. But my habits, probably what I would say are like my morning habits wouldn't begin until I get in the office. I'm not much of a spiritual guy. I love the Lord. I'm a pastor. And so a lot of people probably think, you have these profound devotional times. And I actually don't particularly enjoy devotions. And so, but my morning habit is when I get in the office, I close my door and I have to create a little space inside my head and my heart. And so I journal. And
That's awesome.
for the last few years, I've used this, what they call morning pages. And anywhere from 1 to 3 pages, you just try to get everything onto paper. And I use it as an opportunity to write to the Lord.
Yeah.
And all of those pages, some of them look like prayers, some of them don't look like prayers. And some of them are very passionate, and some of them are a little whiny. Some are just recounting my day before because I want to remember. And sometimes it's a sketch. I know myself well enough to know that before I give, or before I get and put everything in, I really need to kind of give a little bit and create some space inside of me. Yeah. And so it's just my way. I just know myself really well that inside of me I think a lot and I have emotions and I'm a deep feeler, and so I just got to create some space. Yeah. That's my primary morning habit. And if I could wake up in the morning and knock out a workout, that would be incredible. But it just doesn't come to me real natural. So,
well, you look really fit, so you do work out to some extent. I don't know if it's in the morning or the evening, but you do work out, right?
I do. I work out right down the road from my house, a place called Nick's Fight Club. In fact, I'm wearing my Nick's shirt. Part of the Nick's Fight Club family. Okay. And go down usually in the early evening, 5 o'clock, somewhere around there, get done with work and go in and work out. And it's tremendous for my, obviously staying fit, but for my mind, it's just such a release and I love it. And I used to run for years and years and really had slimmed down and leaned way down. And now after having run a marathon and everything just hurting, I changed it up, being a little burnt out. Now I go in and there we box, and we hit bags, we hit mitts, and do you can lift weights. Sometimes you get the opportunity to step in the ring with a real trainer who knows what he's doing, which is so fun and challenging. Boxing is really hard. There's a lot to think about between your 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 footwork and your hands and combinations of what you're doing. It's challenging, but man, it's so fun, and the cardio it takes.
Yeah. When you said the Fight Club, I was wondering if it was like boxing or MMA or a combination of both. I didn't know.
They train fighters for all sorts of stuff out of there, but primarily I would probably say boxing and kickboxing. Okay. They've had a couple fighters that have gone through Bellator, even through the UFC.
Wow.
And stuff like that. But even so, a lot of people think, you hear Fight Club and these guys are really rough and tough, but there's girls in there too, and they're probably tougher than the guys.
Yeah.
But the owner, his name's Steve Nicholson, great man, loves the Lord, and is so polite and giving of his time. The amount of people he has helped that will never step into a professional ring, look across somebody. Their motto is everybody is in a fight, and everybody has a challenge in front of them. And the number of people he's helped who fight depression, anxiety, little kids who may be autistic and have sensory issues, and come in and teach them how to manage their emotions in their body. It is remarkable the work that they do in there, and to help people, not just physically, but what's going on up here as well.
Yeah, the mental side it's extremely important.
They're so polite, and they treat people with such respect. So, from the professional all the way down to the person who walks in and says, I need to lose X amount of pounds. They treat everybody the same.
That's legit, man. Yeah. Well, since you have this shirt on, you want to show everyone the logo?
Yeah.
Video, man.
Yeah, man. That's Nick's Fight Club, Amarillo, Texas, and in Lubbock as well.
Boom.
They have a gym down in Lubbock, so check them out. They're just wonderful people.
So if I were to come down and visit you for a weekend and go to a service, would they let me pop in and spend $10 and work out for a day?
Oh, you don't need to spend $10. I'll get you in. I got some connections. I even got some gloves. We'll get you all set up.
Well, I don't know. The stories you told me about you boxing, it'd probably be a pretty quick KO. Not even a TKO.
We won't do none of that. We'll just hit some bags. That's what we'll do. Yeah. I actually watched some of the guys. They were getting ready for. There were like 6 guys on a card, and I was watching. I mean, it was real sparring, and I saw mouth guards flying, and I thought, anybody who ever has any desire to do this needs to come watch real sparring, because it's scary how hard they hit, how tough they are. They're tough dudes,
man.
So and ladies as well.
Oh yeah,
I shouldn't. Yeah, I should be correct about that, because there's really tough gals in there too.
Oh yeah, we have we did a podcast with a girl. She's MMA. Her name is Julia Villa, and she's won her last 2 or 3 fights by KOs, and it's pretty legit, man.
Did you see that picture of the guy who, I don't know, he tried to rob some lady, try to steal her purse something? And he didn't realize she fights for UFC, and he got messed up.
Yeah.
I mean, big time.
Yeah, he got broke off a little something.
Yeah. Yeah. He bit off more than he can chew.
Yeah. You were talking about a friend of yours, John King, and you spar with him, you box with him, you work out with him?
Use the word spar loosely.
Okay.
He's just an inspiration to me.
Yeah.
And, humbly, I hope I am to him. I encourage him and give him a fist pound and tell him I'm cheering him on every time that I walk in that gym. He's a guy who has been through more than I'm aware. He's lost his mom. He's lost his little brother. He's lost a dear friend or two. And the things that he's battled against are greater than the battles he's had in the ring or the octagon or whatever, the cage, whatever you want to call it. And here's a guy who presses forward, and he has a smile on his face, and he challenges people, and he helps people, and he gives his time. And he spends his brother, whom he lost, was Down syndrome, special needs. And so John has given his life to helping young young boys and young girls who are special needs, and he works at a middle school about a half mile from my house.
Wow.
And he's a big guy. And so what a lot of people don't know about those who are special needs is they're really strong. And so he has an innate sense of knowing what they're going through because his little brother experienced that. But because they're also strong, he's able to outmatch a lot of their strengths and, or their muscle and just pure strength. And,
right.
But just a courteous guy, and, shakes my hand every time I'm in there.
That's awesome, man.
Great guy.
Sounds like a gym and people I want to be around.
Meet so many people. I used to go to gyms and people come in and they pull their hat down and they just walk in and then they leave. And then here you come in and you do a high intensity interval training class.
Yeah.
And you sweat and you laugh and you have fun and you know people's names. You get to know the trainers, and the owner comes out and he greets everyone and he says bye. He's available to chat. And so it's wonderful. I love doing it.
That's awesome. You've been a pastor for almost 20 years, or maybe over 20 years. What got you into that in your studies? What was your passion? And then how did you end up in Amarillo?
So, 38, I've been in full-time ministry for almost 16 years.
Wow.
But really got into ministry on a part-time basis when I was probably about 19 years old, 19 or 20. In high school, I really had a dream to go play baseball somewhere.
Yeah.
I struggled in the classroom a lot, and when it came time to choose where I was going to go, it was either junior college or I had this opportunity. I love the Lord. I've watched my dad. My dad is a pastor. I have siblings who are in ministry, and that was the route I chose. Yeah. And they were able to accept me into school. And so that was the beginnings of how I got into ministry.
Yeah.
And, by the Lord's grace, he called me to a church in the metro east of St. Louis in Edwardsville, Illinois, and grew up there. My wife and I, we got married shortly after we started that ministry, and, grew up there, had kids, and learned how to pastor people. Yeah. And it was such an honor, now not being in Edwardsville, to watch some of those kids grow up. They're now in their 20s. The people that you've walked through in good times and not in good times. I mean, I loved being a pastor for that reason, is you see people in such vulnerable moments and joy and pain. And so towards the end of my time in Edwardsville, I was contacted by a church in Amarillo, Texas, Hillside Christian Church. Yeah. And the Lord just did a work inside of my wife and I. And so we packed up, we moved all the way down to West Texas, where it's dry and arid, but it's beautiful. The evenings in the summer are beautiful. The evenings in the winter are really cold. Yeah. And the people are courteous and nice, and you can trust about everywhere you go. You're going to be taken care of, because probably somebody's carrying a gun. That's probably the way it is. So when we stand up on Sunday mornings at church, we're pretty safe. Right. People are watching out for us.
Yeah, people got the Lord watching over everyone, so that's good, man.
But I love being a pastor. It has given me... I'm addicted to the work of being a pastor. I'm probably not addicted to the job. I'm not a workaholic by any means. Wherever I go, whatever the Lord calls me to, if he wants me to mow lawns for the city, if he wants me to do whatever, I'll still minister to people. It's just a calling on my life, because I love the Lord, and because people have been positioned in my life to pour into my life. I can't not do that wherever I go. Yeah. And, by God's grace, he's given me an opportunity to do that vocationally. Man. And I'll do that as long as he asks me to.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt. My next question is, it's on the topic of ministry. So, how do you prepare when you do you deliver sermons on Wednesday nights, Sunday mornings, or how does this work?
So the way that our church works is we have a teaching team, and I'm not on the teaching team. I have a master's degree in preaching.
Mm-hmm.
And here I am, 38. I got the degree when I was 30, and I thought, man, I want to preach so bad.
Yeah.
And here I am, 38, and I really don't have a strong desire to preach.
Mm-hmm.
If the Lord wants me to do that, I'll do that. But in order to get ready for a teaching, is sometimes it comes very easily, and sometimes it doesn't come very easily. But there's always work to be done. The challenge is when you do it over and over on a week-to-week basis, then the discipline of preparing those messages is shown in the very fact just by you being a learner.
Yeah.
And so anybody can go and repeat the same teachings and messages and regurgitate all of that. But for someone who's always learning, who's always constantly growing in their faith or in their trade or whatever, it shows in how they teach.
Yeah. Do you see members of your congregation out at restaurants, Target, when you're doing shopping or you're eating out with your family?
We do. Yeah. My role isn't as public as some of the guys in our church. They don't have as much privacy. And I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. I enjoy being with my family, and I'm not a glad hand type of guy.
Yeah.
Not that any of them are.
What's a glad hand?
Kind of like a political guy. They're always looking to just,
hey, Pastor,
hey, how you doing, man? How you doing? So
I got you.
It's not really the type of guy that I am. I love to be friendly and courteous when anybody wants my time, but I don't know how I'd handle being such a public figure. Mm-hmm. It would be a totally different thing. But we do have a few in our community that it's hard to go to a coffee shop or out to eat with them because they're so known. They're always on a screen somewhere, or they've seen them in a picture somewhere. Yeah. And so I'm not in that capacity of influence, but I certainly have a range of influence with people in our community.
Right.
And I've lived there for 4.5 years. Mm-hmm. It's a tight-knit community in Amarillo, in the Panhandle. Wonderful people. The longer you're in basically in an area, the more people you know.
Yeah.
And yeah.
What are some questions, maybe a couple of questions that you wish people would ask you, but they never do?
I wish they would ask me what's my allegiance in college football. I'm an Oklahoma fan.
Yeah.
Things that are more down to earth.
Mm-hmm.
And when people see you on a stage, there's a lot of haters in the world, and they pass judgments on you, and sometimes they can think that, wow, that person must not be very this or that based on judgments from a distance. Mm-hmm. And so I wish people were, I could just sit down and have coffee with more people.
Yeah.
And do what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly right.
That I'm not Pastor Matt. I'm just Matt.
Yeah.
And I'm just a normal guy, and sometimes I have worries whenever I go to sleep at night, and sometimes I don't even want to go to church on Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't want to wake up.
Yeah.
And then there's other times when I'm just super excited. I wish I could talk more about my kids.
Yeah.
Lily and Evie. I was just talking to Lily last night. She was laying in bed, and she loves to draw, especially as of late.
Yeah.
And she's so proud of these drawings that she had done. She figured out how to draw mountains, and it just brought me so much joy.
Yeah.
Just like, never did I ever think that the job of being a dad, which is really hard, it can be very frustrating, would I just be so happy to see a little girl, 10 years old, love to draw mountains and color them and be so proud of herself.
Right.
And so those are questions I would love to talk more about. The organizational things of church, because we are a church, there are, there's a structure to it that doesn't tickle my heart. But what does tickle my heart is talking about Jesus and talking about Scripture. And I would love to just talk more about this man that I want to become like.
Yeah.
And I love Jesus, and I love talking every opportunity I get.
I've got quite a few friends that are, they're not pastors, but they're very devoted Christians, and I could name a couple out of my head. His name is also Matt, but it's Matt Bennett, or Nate Gomez, Justin Rosen, Andy Schneider. These guys are in the wrestling community.
Nate's been on your podcast, right?
Nate Gomez has been on the podcast a couple times. Yeah, so it's really interesting. Coach Schneider came on the podcast. I'd like to get Mr. Bennett to come on to the podcast.